Hello guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. Today it's me, Pascal Flor, and on the other end it is the winner, Steve Hall. And Steve, before we are going before I give the word over to you, I want to first and foremost congratulate you on the win, but at the same time tell you how freaking proud I am of you. I know that you've been working so long and hard for this, and seeing you then finally get onto stage at the UK DFBA and take a first place is incredible. And now I just leave it to you to first and foremost say thank you, Pascal, and thank you everybody else. And then I just want to hear your first initial thoughts about the entirety of the last weekend.
So thank you very much. You know what? A few people have reached out to me over on Instagram mainly, but some of my clients have also said it, where they're just like, they almost felt the win was like, they felt like they were winning almost, like they were like so much part of the process, so much part of the team. And I feel like this is the same for you, even more so actually than them, because we talk so frequently and you're right by my side. That they were just like, the feeling of just being so proud, like a parent, just like, that's like that's our guy, like doing it for us. And it's really, really gratifying to know that not only am I kind of the culmination of getting that first placing is like somewhat kind of signifying all that work and effort that I've put in, but also people are seeing it from the outside. They're seeing like this guy, he's not just winning because he's like out of luck or completely genetically blessed. Not that I like to bring that into it necessarily, but they can see the grit, the kind of smart, hard work from the outside, and they can see me applying it. I'm like, it's so appreciated that people are seeing that, and they kind of, and like you therefore get a great understanding of why it means so much. Because I think if I was to have competed in 2014 and won like my first show, I don't think that would have meant that much, because it's like, I haven't really worked that hard for it yet. But I can say now I've worked very hard for that win. So yeah, that was really, really nice to know that people kind of could see that. And like we always say, we do this for the process. And the only reason, and I will bring it back to this, the only reason I got that win was because I was focused on the process for all these years. Because if I kept focusing on winning, I would have not placed in my novice shows in 2014 and left the sport, because I would have just been like, fuck that, I'm not good at that. Whereas it was just a case of, right, back to work, put in the work each and every day, enjoy the process, tick those boxes as it were. And it's led me here. And that's the only reason I have got that win, along with no one better turning up. And in fact, it was incredibly close. And I'm sure we'll get into that. But those are some initial thoughts at least. And when I look at it from the outside in, it's just really cool to see that you don't have to be, I don't know, like Ronnie Coleman genetics or something, or you don't have to be like born into the sport and have the best like insertions and all of this. And if you just, like everything in life, you don't have to be Bill Gates to do well and be successful or what have you. You can still be successful in your own right, and you can also take your business, your relationships, your physique, whatever it is, your family life, from somewhere not that amazing to somewhere really impressive. And that's where that signifies it. Like UK DFBA, I placed 4th in my novice show with them, first show. Then I placed at my qualifier, or actually let's say the British finals, I came 5th. And this time round, or my qualifier, I came 3rd. And then this qualifier, winning that. And now hopefully at finals doing even better than 5th, and obviously a way better physique. And it's just like, that's why I love natural bodybuilding, because it is one of those things where it's not like other sports in the same way. It is about like, you have to consistently put in that time and effort to build the muscle, because it's slow. And it's slow to develop. And so I love that. I love that part of it. And so it was really nice, yeah, to see that all come. And it's crazy when they were talking about how close the top 3 was. I was just like, I've kind of been there before where it's been close and where it's been a split decision between 1st and 2nd. And I was just like, man, 2nd place. I was like, when I didn't get 3rd, I was like, man, this is awesome. Like I've never had better than 3rd. So to get better than 3rd was like, right. I said to my guy to my right, Charlie Neal, who's a great competitor, it's like, you've got this. It's all good. And I think he may have even said the same to me. And then his name got called for second, and then it was like the realization I'd won it, and just this. It was kind of like weird comparison, but like with the vaccine, when I got that, and I just had this initial like flood of like heat, because I just had this. It was like an uncontrollable response to it. It was the same when I realized I was first. It was like an uncontrolled just feeling of like emotion, and then like tears welling in my eyes. I don't know how many people could really see that in the crowd. I don't think anyone really could, because I wasn't like full on bawling it, but I was crying because it was very emotional for me. And it's to know that actually in some ways, because it was a split decision and it was so close, to know that I got the split decision, it gives me even a little bit more hope, because it's like we were so close, but still something about me was slightly better than that guy. For the head judge, at least. I think I won it with like the glutes, probably. Something from the rear. I think he said that to me at the end. He was like, it was the rear shots that did it for me. So shows I won from the back, apparently. But yeah, that's I guess, my initial reaction, and then me contemplating it and kind of receiving so many kind words and congratulations like you just gave me. It's madness. And in reality, I like to pull myself back in. It's qualifier. Doesn't matter. You just need to qualify. It's finals where it counts.
Absolutely. I mean, I have so many thoughts about the things that you said there. And of course, this show, I want this to be about you and of course what it is that you've experienced here. But of course, we need to then delve into other avenues to then give a little bit of context to the things. Yes, in the past, we've talked a lot about it. That is just bodybuilding. It's just a show, right? So it doesn't really matter where you're placing, as long as you can be, or as long as you're proud about what it is that you brought to stage. And even if you don't, right, you will probably always have the time and hopefully the drive to improve upon that and bring a better package the next time. But knowing that you've stepped on stage for the first time in 2014, then second time 2017, and now this season, and how far you've come, how much work and effort you've put into things, especially between the last season 2017 up until now. You've just put in so much time and effort that this is then being rewarded. It's not about necessarily the win in itself. The win is a symbol of all the work and effort that you've put in there. And that's a form of appreciation. It's like the income that you are making from your work. Does it really tell you much about how well the work was or so? No, there's always someone else who's making more money, but it's a form of appreciation of the time and effort that you're putting into what it is that you do. And that's the same here as well. The win was more of a symbol of everything that you've been doing over the past couple of years now, leading up to this point. And for me, it meant so much because when it comes to friendship, you always give another shit when you talk face to face to another, but behind your back, you always support each other, right? For when it's not friendship, it's the other way around. You're always kind to that person up front, and then behind the back, you're just talking shit about that person. And I just wanted you to win so much so that you get the acknowledgement, a recognition that you deserve, in my opinion, for putting in that much work and effort, and also for people giving you shit in the past, for calling you names, giving you just a hard time, talking down on you, patronizing you to some extent, right? And now you're here, stepping up, not letting these kind of things deviate you from your journey and your path, and you step on stage and take the win. This is such a gratifying feeling, not just in the sense that you took a win or so, but also that you just proved everyone wrong. You just did you, and you focus on just what it is that you love, instead of letting you deviate from the people who always say that you can't make it because you don't have what it takes, or you're doing it wrong, or whatever, right? And this is even more rewarding, in my opinion, and I think that this is also something that so many other athletes experience as well, when there are so many people saying this is something they can't do. And then after years of putting in the work and effort, they're actually making it. And this is, I find it amazing to see that. And I think that because of that, I'm even more proud of you, because you've proven everyone wrong. And you, once again, you just did you, and you put in the work and effort. And it's also a message being sent out there to everyone who does think that they may not be the most genetically blessed, that you can still go a freaking long way when you're just putting in the work and effort.
I really love that. That's almost a symbol of what Revive Stronger was initially about. Was the reason I got into the industry was because I was at ground zero in terms of health, well-being, mental, physical, and then I recovered it. And I was like, wow, if I can do this, I can help other people do this. Yeah. And very much the same way, like you said there, if people are like, man, I'm just not blessed genetically, or I have a real hard time gaining muscle for whatever reason, like I'm one of those people that I don't gain muscle super easy. I don't have, like, it doesn't come easily to me. But if you put in that time and effort, and I'm very humbled to be a symbol for that consistency, hard work. If you put in the time and effort, you will be rewarded. And I'll say this, like you said there, if I was to, like, the thought that comes to mind is like, this is a win for Team RAR, right? That's a joke. But people understand what I mean there, because it's kind of a win for like team evidence-based or science or whatever, because that's the path I followed. And I'll be very honest, like, I don't think I'd be where I am without following that. Like, that's why I did it. I'm not doing it. Is the phrase I come to with Mike Israetel, where it was like, results are my preference. I don't train because I want to, like, I don't know, like, enjoy some element of that training thing. That the enjoyment is the progression, the results, the potential win, the outcome. And so that's why I stuck it out. And like you said there, it's only because of people like you, Pascal, like our followers, our base, all of them, that I was like partly able to also be as consistent with those methods, because it's easy to get drawn away from the process, away from what you think rationally. Your rational brain just moves towards, oh, what's the biggest guy in the room doing? Because he must be doing something I'm not. But it's a case of, well, maybe that's not the case. So I'm glad it can be a little bit of a symbol for that, and a little bit of kind of a bit of a cheeky win for like team evidence based in that sense.
Yeah, and to be fair, you got a lot of shit for it, directly and indirectly. And this is not even something that is up for debate. We know that there are people out there who talk absolute dog shit about us, about everyone who is following this approach, and it's unjustified. It's kind of a bullying behavior, as you rightly put it, so at some point, because the arguments and the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, right? And the arguments have been absolutely weak all the time, right? And seeing more and more people coming out, also Jared, for example, right, now turning enhanced and climbing up the ladder super quickly, is speaking for itself. And I think it's absolutely amazing to have symbols and faces such as you and Jared being out there and not just talking, but also proving it, that it works. And I don't want this to turn into kind of a dogmatic statement, because in the end, we are doing bodybuilding. We are stepping on stage, and I very much assume that you enjoyed the time together with all of the other competitors there. And no one was standing there and thinking like, Steve the fucking arsehole, he's training with Aria, he should not win, right? But that guy over there, I don't know who that is, but he should win because he's probably training to failure. No one's thinking stuff, that, yeah. Right? This is just like being behind a screen, like a typical keyboard warrior, right? But on location, probably everyone is having a good time, independent on how you're training, because what it's all about is getting together there, bodybuilding, appreciating that everyone has made it here, and having a good time. Yeah, but I very much agree. It's very, very cool to then still see that you are kind of acting like a symbol, not in regards to the evidence-based realm, but working, just trying to put in the work and effort and being rewarded.
Yeah. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, me doing that is a weak form of evidence. Let's just put that right. If we're true evidence-based practitioners, don't look at that and be like, I'm going to copy Steve because he's obviously onto something here. Yeah. Like, focus on the principles, like all the stuff I focused on, and individualize it to myself. And like you said, I totally don't want to be, this is not, the win was nowhere near like the significance wasn't to prove anyone wrong or whatever. It was all about the journey and enjoying it. And it always has been, which is why I never like to get into like those debates or scuffles or like the stuff that, like I said, is just playground stuff. It's just pointless. It doesn't matter. What I love about bodybuilding is, like you said, what you see on show day, where I see people who on social media, we interact and I get to see them face to face. I'm just like, man, this is awesome. You're so like into the sport. And the stuff that natural bodybuilding has given me, like it's given me a career, it's given me a passion, a path in life. And I love that. And I love that other people can also enjoy that aspect of it. So you're completely right. I think in some ways, social media can be really deadly for that. Yeah. Like you said, there's something gets said on social media. I don't know why, but quite often there's lots more negativity. But when you're together, people just see eye to eye way more. It's kind of like when we get people on the podcast, you know, and people are like, not necessarily the individuals involved, but other people like to hedge them against each other. It was like Helms versus Israel for ages, right? But when they come together, there's far more agreement, and they're like, cool, we don't agree on this little thing, but you're still my bro, no?
I have a story, and you know that one because I sent you the screenshots that I took back then over on Instagram. It's not that long time ago. It's, I think, like over a month ago. When I posted something where Katie was with me at the gym, and Katie has never been to a gym, right? And I was just posting her video that she was doing a full range of motion leg press. And of course, the sled had only like one plate on it. I mean, have you ever taken a look at Katie's legs? They are as big as my arms. From
she's tall as well.
She is tall, yeah. But it was about the starting point, that someone who gets into the gym tries to do it as best as they can and tries to actually have proper form from the get-go. And it's not about then the weight. And I tagged the form police, right? Good guys. Not everyone thinks that they are good guys. And then I think someone who really despises the form police, and he's called the Real Form Police over on Instagram, then commented on it, on my post, and gave me lots of shit. And I don't want to go into detail about what it is that he said, because in the end, why I brought it up is not to bash this guy, but I actually then went back to him saying like, hey buddy, this is ridiculous. And if I'm ever over in the UK, let's have a training session together. And I'm absolutely certain that we will have a good time and get along just fine. And I really mean it. I said to him, like, this is not meant in a, I don't know, ironic way or anything like that. I truly mean this, that when I'm over in the UK, let's get a session together. And I think that then we will look back at this conversation that we're right now having in our DM and think how fucking stupid we've been, that we bashed our heads for something that is absolutely unimportant. And I think that because we are probably kind of very much similar, especially due to what connects us, and that is bodybuilding, I think that we will have a good time. And that's exactly it, right? I mean, and then he also calmed down and realized, hey, sorry, I was just, I don't know, losing my temper a little bit. And then we started to get along just fine, right? And I think that this would be such a common phenomenon, that those camps, when they were just like to meet up, and man, I don't think that there would be any kind of problems, to be honest.
No, I can at least say that from my end. Like, I'm never, like, I don't take any of that stuff personally. It's not like I'm not part of like Aria or whatever it is. Yeah. That isn't me. Like, I am not that person. I am Steve, like a boyfriend, a dog father, a bodybuilder, what have you. Yeah. So I don't, if someone has a problem with something I'm doing, that's like the way I'm training, I mean, that's frivolous. Like, that doesn't really matter, right? Yeah. So, it's what unites us is the iron in that sense.
It's as if I would be angry that you're drinking, I don't know, black tea instead of green tea.
Yeah. having milk in my coffee.
Yeah. I mean, come on. And that is basically very much similar. It's kind of a very, very, even though that these are two different things, if you really boil it down, these are just like two different preferences, right? And yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
So totally agree. To go back to the show then. What I want to know is, of course, how to now proceed. What's the plans moving forward, of course. And yeah, give me a little bit of an insight of what the next steps are.
So, yeah, I guess actually I'll talk a little bit about the process leading into that show, because I'm not sure we've talked. Did we talk about oh no, we did completely last time. I went in depth into that. So I'll completely skip past that part but I'll just say it worked really well. And it was cool because I was about 2 pounds heavier this time round, which just goes to show how much more glycogen I was probably storing, and because I was leaner as well. I'm very excited for the photos to come out. And it also worked incredibly well for Jack Rayner. Shout out to him because he was at that show. Unfortunately, he didn't place. It was ridiculous. There was 25 people in his class, and it was very competitive. And at his next show, I think there's like 36 in the class.
What is going on with men's physique?
It's getting split over three height categories. So at 5'11", he was a short in this one, which is hilarious. So he was the guy that won was actually short. He was like 5'5" or something, and yeah, very, very experienced. So yeah, after this now, so I have 5.5 weeks until, or it'll be 5 weeks basically until once this is out, until the finals, which is in Athena, in Leicester City, which is exciting. So my plan, a few people have asked me, they're like, so are you making improvements now? How are you maintaining this physique until then? And I'm like, yes, I'm making improvements. They're like, oh, so you're in a small surplus. I'm like, no, I'm not gaining muscle. I'm not maintaining this physique. I'm getting leaner. And people are like, huh? I'm like, I want elite conditioning. They're like, I thought you had that. I'm like, no. There's a bit more to come off. There's a little bit more.
But that's basically what we've also talked about the last time, right? That so many people are thinking like, no, you look freaking fantastic. And that's true. Yeah. But if you really want to bring that conditioning that Cliff Wilson is really known for, bringing that one out in his athletes, then you probably have to lose a little bit more.
Yeah. Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews, and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description. So that's what I'm doing. I think I will have at least 3 weeks of digging for that sort of condition, where it might only be a pound that I need to come off. I don't even know. At this point, you're looking more in the like how you visually looking versus what's the scale weight saying. Yeah. So on stage, I was like 174 pounds, which is crazy because that's like 10 pounds above my previous like stage weight. Crazy. But you can see it. Like I still look at stage photos. I'm like, how the fuck is that me? Like that's not me, this guy. But actually, why have I forgotten the name? But the guy that runs the UK FBA, for some reason, Lee Kemp, he said like because we're very close to the top 3, he was like, this 6 weeks before finals, it's going to mean a lot. Like it's going to mean a lot to you. And it probably means even more to those guys, because I think I probably was edging them. Well, certainly edging one of them in condition, probably both slightly. So they can really improve. But I'm like, I can still you might be able to take it to my level of conditioning or further maybe. But I'm like, I want that elite level conditioning because I don't have, that's got to be my calling card. Is like, I had always good condition was a calling card. Now I need I got really good mass and condition, because I'm never going to have the flowing lines, the symmetry I'm fine with. But yeah, I'm never going to have the flowing lines. So muscularity, symmetry, conditioning are my cards. Yeah. So yeah, getting the glutes in fully, because they're pretty in, but they're not fully in. That's for sure. Try and get some detail through the lower back a little bit more if I can. I've never really seen that feathered, and like the feathering you get through like lats. That's not really ever something I've seen. So if I can get that, that'd be really cool. A bit more detail through the quads possibly would be fantastic, without losing muscularity. And at the moment, I'm in a position where I can still dig Because I know my journey so far, when I think about it that way, there's people who are, like I said, they're where I am, but they've been dieting for the year. They've been dieting since January. I didn't start dieting until the end of May. So I've still got plenty in reserve. I still feel pretty decent, to be honest. Really not kind of feeling terrible at the moment. I have a lot of stressful stuff coming up in the next weeks. But like you said, Pascal, I think I can use it to my advantage where I can get it all done whilst just being a robot. And in the background, my bodybuilding gets done. Don't have to focus on it too much. And like shredded glutes will just pop their ugly head. And they'll be like, hey there.
And this is the thing, right? I always say to the majority of my athletes, when you're busy, that's actually a good thing. Because that most of the time means that you're expending more energy, that you're less food focused, and thus those two things are already huge parts of your nutritional endeavor when it comes to getting lean. And especially in during your contest prep right now, where you need to dig, you want to take your mind off of food. Even though that it hasn't really been an issue so far, it could very well be that it will be that point where it's hard. And if you're then forced in being more active and you simply can't eat because you're, I don't know, on your way somewhere, then that can be a quite beneficial and powerful tool.
So long as I don't get like hypoglycemic.
That's true.
That would suck. I want to avoid that because that's not very fun. But you know, we're talking about layers of diet fatigue. And this is props to diet breaks here, because there's been a physiological response for me in terms of energy levels, but also some of the things we're talking about, like I was standing up and I was getting lightheaded before my diet break or before my progressive linear load, which is basically a diet break. That went away. I'm not getting lightheaded when I stand up. So like there's other things along those lines that got wiped clean, at least up until this point, and during the diet break that were there previously. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, essentially I'll be following 5 low days, 2 refeed days for the next like number of weeks until I feel like I can afford to reverse and slowly build up calories in a progressive manner, kind of like I did in 1 week, but do it over multiple weeks. And then hopefully hold that kind of perma peak from the first show up until my last show, which is like a month stretch, basically. Unless I somehow do very, very well at finals, and because like the UK FBA have their European tour and stuff. So again, it depends who turns up. It depends how much I can improve in that period of time. But I'm kind of on I guess it's like walking what's it called? A tightrope right now, where I need to balance a lot of things. And I'm getting pushed quite a lot with what life is throwing at me. So I just have to be careful, because it's tempting to dig a little bit harder, but I'm also aware that things are going smoothly. And if I am tempted to dig harder, I might push myself off and things might like might hit the fan. So I'm just trying to manage that as best as I can. Like for example, this weekend, going to Charlotte's family. The week after, I have a funeral, unfortunately. I need to somehow manage when I'm getting my vaccine, second dose. And then what was the other thing? Oh, well, we have some potential to move from out of rented property, possibly, which would be crazy. So
I mean, everything, full package. Traveling, funeral, moving of houses. I mean, anything else?
Charlotte just needs to be giving birth now.
Yeah, exactly. But I find this also very, very cool, especially for our audience, that life, because it's also their proof that life still continues, and that you need to stay on top of all the responsibilities that you have and all the tasks that you still need to continue doing. And I think that people may look up to someone like you and think like, oh man, if I had a life like this, then of course I could do this as well. But I have so many things to do. And now here you are, look at you. There are so many things that you need to take care of that are not really something that you would like to do at the moment, in that sense, like to do. Yeah. If you could, or if you had the choice, then probably chances are that you would like to postpone it for the time after the prep. But this is just life. It happens. It doesn't stop just because you're prepping. And you have to just get the shit done then and there as well. And I think it's cool to see that you I'm sorry for you, that's for sure. But at the same time, it's cool that you are going through that, just once again as a role model for all the people who are watching you.
Yeah, I think it was Eric Helms who was like traveling all over the flipping place when he was shredded. I felt for that man.
Yeah, all the seminars and stuff.
Yeah, but this is where being a smart bodybuilder helps, because I would say an unintelligent bodybuilder will just dig themselves into the ground. A smart bodybuilder will be able to stay on this cliff edge because they use things like light days or deloads or diet breaks or refeeds or cycle their carbohydrate intake or something to help mitigate the stresses that are coming in. And these are the people that I think are going to survive the sport of bodybuilding the longest. And the people who survive the sport the longest are the ones who eventually see their physique the best, because that's what it takes. You look at someone like Jeff Alberts, again, he's a great example. He's just been doing the damn thing for so damn long. And a great example of someone who's been able to manage it around his life, whereas sometimes I worry, I see people go head first into it and they just can't. You need to be a bit more balanced than that. And I know balance gets frowned upon by a lot of people, but there has to be a semblance of it. Otherwise you will fall off and then you won't come back. You have to climb your way back up. You want to avoid that. So
one more thing, and that goes back to what we originally talked about in regards to not having placed the way that you wanted to back then in 2014 and 2017. You had other expectations back then. You anticipated to always place better, but now looking back in hindsight, it was actually kind of a blessing in disguise, because that caused you to reevaluate everything, to analyze the situation, and probably put in more work and effort than if you had placed the way that you would like to. So you typically always hear from those individuals who always get the second place, right? And they hate it in that minute. But then they put in the work and effort, and then they come out of on top, and they dominate the sport for like ages. And it can be quite a blessing in disguise if you're not winning with your first shows and the first season, and no matter what it is that you're doing, that you're not successful with the first things that you're doing. I'm thinking right now about training, for example. The worst thing that can happen to you is that you are successful with your first trades, because then you're overconfident, putting or getting way too much risk on everything, and then you're losing it all. Right? And it's kind of the same there. I think that because you didn't really win or take the wins or get the placing that you wanted to in the past, maybe this was also a catalyst for you in order to, or a driver rather, in order to get back to the drawing board and work even harder to make it happen at some point.
Yeah, I definitely think not winning is a blessing, whereas people might not see it that way. And it's also great taking it to stage a few times before, because you really get to see your weaknesses. And without getting that lean, sometimes you don't know what your strengths and weaknesses are. Like for me, my abs were a big weakness, which I knew they were weak. I didn't realize how much of a difference they make. And now I have abs, like I can actually like not look, I think they just make you easily a weak target when you just don't have abs, for example. So yeah, it's cool to see that and reflect upon that and know that's what also I love about bodybuilding, is just like you can just keep going at it, grinding at it, and eventually you should be rewarded. Isn't one of those. Yeah.
Are you taking steps at me and my abs right now?
Not meaning to. It's one of those things, like, yeah, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, got you caught in the act.
Pascal, pull your finger out, train your abs a bit more.
Yeah.
They're not fun even calves, for example. Like I'm training my calves in my off season. I'm like, are they fucking doing anything? Like you don't know. And as I've dieted down, I'm like, even my calves look quite a bit bigger.
I do remember though that we had an improvement season podcast ages ago where you transitioned over to training your abs more frequently. And we said, okay, we will find out the next time that you're stepping on stage whether it worked or not. And apparently it did.
Yeah. It's funny because you don't know in the off season. You're just like, yeah, it should be like any other muscle, right?
Yeah. I mean, the good thing for
is.
you is that it's a muscle group that is always kind of visible for you. But if it's a muscle group that is just like under a thick layer of fat, you have no idea whether it's actually growing or not, right? It's just, then it's really just trusting the process.
I think that always lured me into a false sense of security with my abs. I always thought, oh, I can see my abs in my off season. That must mean they're pretty well developed. And then as I dieted down, I was like, no, I just don't hold much fat on my abs. So I've seen that with a few people where like they don't hold a lot of fat there. So they think they have decent abs, and so they don't really prioritize them in off season at all. Yeah. They diet down. It's like, oh, they just look the same. So not great at the moment, which is unfortunate.
So, to recap, you have now 3 more shows planned, right? Planned 3, yep. Is that correct? UK DFBA, 2 pros, and the WMBF UK.
Yeah, unfortunately, can't do the BMBF finals because it conflicts with WMBF.
Yeah. In that sense, it gives you another now. How many weeks up until the next show?
So on listening to this, it'll just be under 5 weeks to the UK DFBA.
Yeah. And then, so this gives you plenty of time to really, really dig now, get yourself into a proper position, and perhaps then even qualify for Worlds or like the European Tour. And I would assume that if that's the case, then you're all like fired up, and it's just about now getting the last or squeezing out the last drops out of this citrus or so to then have a citrus juice or so.
Yeah, it's kind of a position that I think it's the tour might be in very soon after November. I think it's in November. So I don't actually know where it is, but who knows? It'll be one of those situations where it'll be even more of a tightrope that you're kind of juggling between. And it may even mean sometimes I need to like have a bit of a break, push calories up, and then come back down to try and somewhat make this more manageable. So I'll have to see how that all goes. And I don't think any life event should kind of get in the way of that. I mean, I'm probably...
Except for the funeral, moving of houses, getting a kid.
That's all coming with it, getting a kid. That's all happening in the next like 3 weeks, basically. Yeah. So...
No, absolutely.
Once that stress is all out the way, it'll be nice to just focus. But the key here is, and I don't imagine I will, but I do not want any complacency to get in. And it hasn't happened yet, so I don't envisage it happening. But this is the time where definitely for a lot of competitors, I think if they've got like a time gap like they have now, complacency can settle in because you haven't got that carrot in front of you like the next show, the next qualifier. It's a long time.
I know where you're coming from, but I always had a hard time relating to this. Because that's not the type of person I am, neither are you. The thing is, I made that post now about my transformation over on Instagram, and the response was overwhelming, to be honest. I think I've never got so many messages and comments maybe on a post. And to me, when I really think about it, I'm now training since 8 years. First year was not really training at all. I mean, I was going into the gym like twice, only doing like dumbbell flies, and so I didn't even know what I was doing. So this year I can't really count towards that, but I got interested into then lifting, and then I discovered things such as starting strength, Martin Burkhan, right? And then I went down the powerlifting road 3 years, and then after that, 4 years of bodybuilding, in which we know what happened in 2017, binging episodes, then lots of volume, which still generated growth. But of course, it was suboptimal training and also especially suboptimal nutrition. And then seeing, though, still the progression to where I was back then to now is, for me, pretty tremendous to see. And for me personally, when someone is asking me, and one of my athletes asked me, like, what do you think, or what, when you take a look at yourself, your previous self, and compare to you now, what are you thinking? And what do you think led to that outcome? And that, I think is pretty clear. That is just my stubborn, I wouldn't really call it stubborn nature, but more like a persistent nature. It's like, when I do something, I just fucking stick with it. And that's basically the same here as well. If I were to compete, I would just have those dates. I would just tick off the boxes, and that would be it. I wouldn't get into a complacent mode, because that's simply not who I am. That's why I'm having a very, very hard time when someone is then, I don't know, doing one show, and after that be like, yeah, I don't know, the drive is gone. Don't know. Where I'm like, but you set the goal for yourself to actually compete at the XYZ show and XYZ show. What has changed? Nothing has really changed. Why are you now deviating from that plan? Always had a hard time with relating to that, because I just see things through unless something severe is happening and a severe, I don't know, form of evidence comes up that that convinces me of taking a different route or so.
Yeah, I can relate more to what you're saying than anything else, because I'm very similar in that sense, robotic. It's like, as we've said, the more we do this, the more it becomes like a lifestyle. What would change if I was to become complacent? I'd just be eating more. That's really the only thing. Or not pose as much, maybe. Like, that's really the only two things that have changed. I'm posing more, I'm eating less. So in my off season, I was just as diligent, just eating more and not doing the posing. So yeah, for me, very similar to you. Even with all these events coming up, that wouldn't change anything either. No. It's just the amount of food I put in my mouth, which I'm in complete control of, even when I'm at these events. Like, I can choose if I eat at the wake or whatever at the funeral and the food they give me, or I can bring my own food if I want to. Like, I have that control. It might be difficult at times, but I can still make choices and better choices. And like being Charlotte's parents, like, I can still choose how much of the food they give me I put in my mouth and select what components, and I can manage that as best as possible, even proactively or reactively with my own nutrition the days leading in and following. There's always a route to kind of get around these situations if you want it enough and you prioritize it well enough. I think the book Extreme Ownership, I don't know if you've read it, but basically it tells you everything in the title there is a great example. And I think that's what we have. We really like to own. I wasn't always like this. I was terrible for it. In fact, it was when I actually did merchandising in the head office. That's what my manager said to me. It was like, I want you to really own your work. Like, don't blame other people for like some mistakes, whatever. Everything you do, own it. Like, if something goes wrong, you own that. So that's what I try and do with my bodybuilding, with everything. Like, I just make sure, okay, so this went wrong. I could blame X, Y, and Z, but maybe there's something I could have done to make that not have occurred.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
It's probably because we've been doing this since such a long time that this has also become part of who we are and part of our just day-to-day business. Of no matter what it is, it's kind of an ingrained habit of like taking the ownership of those situations and not even complaining about. I mean, sometimes I complain, but it's not like I don't do it. It's the same when it comes to cleaning the household or so. I just do it. I don't even complain about it anymore or think about. Of course, you can say things out loudly, but the work is still being done, right? And maybe because we have been doing this since such a long time that we are sometimes forgetting how much it is that we struggled in the past with it as well. And this is the same when it comes to knowledge around training and nutrition. I mean, I was clueless. I've just found some Reddit posts I was posting like 8 years ago. And those questions are just ridiculous questions, right? But we all start somewhere. And sometimes we may also forget things that we didn't know in the past, other ones that some people may not know now, right? And that's maybe the same when it comes to taking ownership as well, that they are at the beginning of building that ownership. And instead of giving them a hard time, we want to, of course, support them and creating that environment of success as well.
Yeah. And the great thing is once you do have it, you're way more empowered to get stuff done. That's the thing. So once you realize how much of in control you are, now you can get so much more done in your life. And you can be more confident about everything you're doing. So yeah, I don't envisage I will get complacent. It's just about making sure I make those improvements whilst balancing the rest of life. That is inevitably going to get stressful for me. But at the moment, I'm still holding on to, I know I wake up basically twice to pee. Normally it's at the same times every day, every night even. So 2 times a night is not bad at all, actually. There's times at which in my off season, it was like that. So my sleep quality is still good. Training performance I'm in week 1 of this mesocycle because I basically deloaded. It's all going well. Actually, pumps this week have been crazy, but I think that's because of the glycogen replenishment from the week prior. So I imagine they die off a little bit, but I'm loving that at the moment with the tan. It's pretty fun. So yeah, that's all holding. So I'm satisfied that as long as I don't it's easy to get caught up in the future. So long as I think about, okay, what do I need to do this week? Prioritize this week, tick off my kind of to-do list as best I can. I think things will run smoothly. And, I just have to, it's like you probably took photos the other day, which you shared over on your story you sent to me, where you saw these details in your physique. I don't know how often you check your physique, but I'm waiting for those shots of myself where I like tense in the mirror and I'm like, I never saw that. I'm like waiting for these like details to come through. And I just want to remind everyone, I'm not chasing shredded glutes. I'm not chasing these details and sacrificing everything else. I'm only going to go there if I can maintain the rest. And that's why I'm on that tightrope, because I think that's important for me to maintain the kind of the muscularity as well.
It's basically what Andrew and Alberto have talked about on the podcast when the topic came up about being ready too early, and then about aesthetics and having a well-balanced physique. And you don't just want to get shredded for the sake of being shredded or so. You don't get any kind of plus points if you sacrifice a lot of things in order to get there, right? And I think it's like I said, it's kind of a very, very tight rope that you have then to balance and experience, right? Experience.
Yeah. Random comment. One thing I've noticed in my physique this season already, that's a weak point that I didn't know was a weak point or didn't appreciate, was chest.
Really?
Never thought chest was a weak point. It gets shredded and it looks all right. But there's some poses where I'm like, if that was bigger, and particularly because it's my front shots, my weak shots, I think I've amazing, like my arms are blessed. Like I'm very lucky there. I've improved the abs. It looks much better. The quads have got much larger. Chest, I think if I could get that much bigger, I think it would really bring up the look. I think I built my delts a lot, but the chest, I think that needs to come up in the off season.
You know what to do then.
5 times a week, 30 sets.
Smolov training.
Pascal, we have like just over 10 minutes. Do we want to talk about your next steps and future? Or...
Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely.
Because I think it's exciting depending on how much you want to share or your thoughts.
So I think I've talked about it here the last week already, that diet is going so smoothly and so easily at the moment. I'm right now sitting at around 75.4 here in the morning, which is the lowest weigh-in. So last year, when we've both prepped together, I was only managing to get onto 76.1 or so, I think it was. I had a look back at my spreadsheets. And I thought that I was at 75, but that was maybe just a mistake on my end. And now I'm sitting at around 75.4, so already quite significantly lower. And I don't even feel like I'm dieting at the moment. I sometimes feel guilty about saying this, but then I think about you, and it was the same for you to some extent. And it's just going super smoothly, like super smoothly. So it was supposed to be my deload here this week, or it is my deload, and I was supposed to have like diet break as well, but I was just feeling great. I mean, I did some sessions to maintain muscle mass while still then being in a caloric deficit. Today, probably because it's Wednesday and we have sushi night, probably going with sushi, or I already ordered sushi. So I'm probably ending up being at around maintenance here today, or slightly below that could also very well be the case. And here on the weekend right before I went into the deload, I took some physique shots, and I haven't done this in a longer period of time, like proper physique shots, not just like in the mirror and at the gym or so. And I was very surprised about my conditioning. Of course, what still fucks me up is, of course, the loose skin, especially when I'm doing my front shots. And the front shots is unfortunately the position where you're in the most, and especially the front upper body is just, it's just not a good look, unfortunately. Lacking abs, loose skin, the lats don't really pop out, chest is not really great or well developed, but legs are, I mean,
quad sweep was great.
I mean, the legs are very, very strong, to be honest. Hamstrings are popping out. The glutes even already start to have some lines, which is crazy to think about that, because what you commonly see with most competitors is that the glutes and the hamstring separation, or just details, they have a very, very hard time bringing that one in. And these things start to pop out now for me already, and I'm still feeling absolutely fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And then I took a look. So I'm, of course, following UKDFBA and also the WMBF and what they are commonly doing, because Andrew and Steph, they're doing a fantastic job being very active over on social media, and they are regularly posting or resharing posts of competitors. And you've seen a lot of competitors actually being like 8 weeks out. And I'm just like, okay, I took some pictures, and I think that I'm in better conditioning than a lot of people that I'm seeing on social media. That being said, take it with a little bit of grain of salt, because we've already talked about it, that in low light situations, this camera is not doing a very well job in catching those details. And it could be that you end up looking way softer and blurring things out, blurring out the details. So it could be that those individuals are much more conditioned than I am. And then, of course, you have individuals who look freaking fantastic, where they are far outpacing me in regards to conditioning. That all being said, so long story short, I was even considering now that I saw some people, their conditioning, and I'm feeling good. I'm dieting anyway, of considering actually stepping on stage at the WMBF UK and also GNBF here in Germany, because I will be at the GNBF anyway, because I have 2 athletes prepping there, and I will be at the WMBF anyway as well. And that's, so it's not about bringing the best package to stage. I know that I'm way too late for that. It's not about placing well or so. In a situation like this, it would be about gaining the experience, getting on stage, taking advantage of where I'm at the moment, that I'm also in that momentum and in the flow, and bringing a conditioning that is not making a fool out of yourself. That's basically the only thing. And having a good time then on stage with people that you know, and people like in front of the stage or so, right? Just having a good time, gaining experience. And it's not about getting your craziest look to stage, because that was never the plan of competing this year. I didn't plan on stepping on stage, but now that it's in reach, I'm very much considering it just for the sake of doing it. And as long as you're not making an absolute fool of yourself, where it's just like, you have nothing to lose there on stage, I think you can go for it.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that mentality for a lot of first timers, especially teen competitors, possibly junior competitors as well, that mentality of get experience, bring a reasonable package to stage, but don't crush myself in the process. I think, and that again is something Alberto and Andrew talked about, was kind of like taking that into consideration as the experience of the athlete and how far do you push them. And I think that's absolutely fair enough. Like if you get that experience and enough exposure, that'll make you a better coach, because now you have hands-on experience of being at a show and actually doing a show. And then you have a taster for it. So you know next time you compete, you can definitely be better because you learn that amount. And I think it's awesome. In fact, actually, that was one of my kind of concerns, as it were, when you said it to me, was that you were only going to possibly just do the one show. And I was like, oh man, it'd be great if you could get like another show, just because I know once you do, like, the first one never goes how you want it to go. Like, you just feel rusty. Posing on stage is different. So the fact that you have potentially those two is awesome. I guess the only change you need to make is you continue your process, just a bit more posing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be a bit more narcissistic.
Totally. That's also the only concern that I have right now is I value posing very, very highly. Where it's like, if you haven't practiced enough, I don't think that you should compete. That's how far I'm going. Because then you didn't really do your due diligence, what it takes to actually present a good package on stage. And I think that Andrew said it once very well. You are there not only for yourself, but also kind of to entertain the people who paid money for it. And if you are just like bringing an awful package to stage with posing because you simply didn't do your homework for bodybuilding, because bodybuilding is not just about getting lean, right? It's an aesthetic process and kind of a show. You are an entertainer the moment that you're stepping on stage, whether you like it or not. Right? Because otherwise you could just like get shredded for yourself at home and not show it to anyone. Right? And that's the only thing. Like 8 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, it's not a long time to really get into the groove of things when it comes to posing.
It's enough time.
It is enough time.
Who kind of has knows what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not a lot of time, right? And thus you wouldn't really need, or I would really need to be on it. And because I don't know whether I truly want to compete, it's like, do I really now get into the groove of practicing posing regularly? If
good
in
practice.
The end, it is, but you know where I'm coming from, right? It's yeah, yeah, I can see that. But I'm curious, and the funny thing is that Katie is even saying I should compete, which I don't think you hear a lot of partners saying that. No. Yeah, step on stage, just get awful, be moody, and all that kind of stuff. Don't have any kind of sex drive. Come on, do this. But yeah, I'm curious. That's for sure. I'm kind of motivated because I want to get below 70 kilograms. I don't know why I'm so hung up on that number, but I haven't been below 70 kilograms in like, it must be now over, 10 years or so.
If you got below 70 kilograms, you'd be very lean.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do believe that. And I said it in the past already, and I'm more and more convinced about my statement in the past, that picture that I posted up was me at 64 kilograms. And I don't think that I could get to 64 kilograms without either being absolutely shredded, or sacrificing a lot of muscle mass in the process.
Yeah, you'd lose muscle, no doubt.
Yeah, and that is crazy to think that I couldn't even get to that old body weight, and that was a time where it was really not having any kind of muscle mass, right? Which speaks for itself, coming from someone considering how much time I've invested into everything, how many years and months have been spent that were suboptimal, and doing and starting this in the midst of my 20s, basically, or end of 20s. Midst of 20s, starting the entire process, but yeah, not being in your prime years or so, and then seeing that progress still. I think it's for many people who give maybe me a hard time or someone like you a hard time as well. They forget about where we started. We didn't start at the age of 13, and we are posting up a pre-pubertal picture of us, and now a picture now, and this is our transformation, because that is. Whenever I see something like that, I find it kind of ridiculous, to be honest. Right? You're just going through puberty, dude. Come on, hey. But considering that I had no muscle mass whatsoever because I was definitely not training at all, I was drinking a lot, had fucked up sleep, and I started at an age where many people are already saying like, "Oh, this is not the best age in starting things." Then had fucked up years, had not a lot of optimal years, and now being where I'm at right now, I think I can still be proud of what I was able to accomplish by now.
For sure. And It's hilarious, just as a side note, that you're completely right. When I was in the first like 5 years of my lifting career, I just got ripped into by trolls. And now I'm like over a decade in, and now people are saying like the odd comment where people don't believe that I'm actually natural. And it's just like, people are hilarious, but you should definitely be proud. Definitely. And I hope we do encourage a few people who think that they're not made for it, think they can't get to where we've been or are, that you can. You just got to put in the work.
And that's what I really want. What the intention behind a post like this is not like, see where I was coming from, look at me, how much I've accomplished. No, it's more like I'm coming from a place that I truly believe that everyone can achieve what I accomplished as well, because I'm not genetically blessed. I didn't do anything fancy. I messed up. I binged. I did suboptimal training as well, where I trained powerlifting style, then also way too much volume as well. Right? I was coming from a place where I had nothing in check, and also from a fat phobic kind of place. And yet here I am, right? Taking a look at the picture. I mean, I can't probably even go back to that old weight without losing a shit ton of muscle mass. And I honestly believe, and I have a family. I became self-employed as well. So a lot of things have happened in the meantime as well in the background. I honestly believe that everyone is, if I can do this, this is the signal that I want to send out. If I can do this, everyone can. It's just a matter of consistency and priorities. And for me, it was just that I said earlier in this podcast that I'm just very persistent. And what else did I want to say? Persistent and don't know. I was kind of stubborn as well, yeah. But persistent and consistent, right? Over a long period of time, and not just giving into like, this shit isn't for me. I'm not seeing any kind of gains, and I had my moments where I was in doubt about everything. But as I already always like to say, what are the alternatives? If you really want to change something, there is no alternative other than putting in the work and effort.
Well said.
Absolutely.
And on that
note,
leave
absolutely.
Leave the listeners. Wish me luck for the next 5.5 weeks.
Absolutely. So, Steve, it was absolutely amazing talking about your previous show. And I'm very, very excited now for the rest of the season of what it is that you can bring to stage. And I think that the vast majority of the listeners are so as well. You can always follow Steve's journey, of course, over on Instagram. But as well, we are bringing out vlogs on a bi-weekly basis over on YouTube as well. Follow just like, I think it's called Steve Contest Prep 2021 or so, the playlist. And yeah, then you will also get a great insight of the training, the entire process as well. And yeah, leave a like, leave a subscription if you like what it is that you're seeing, and leave a comment as well. And then, yeah, you will follow along Steve's journey to worlds.
And if people want, actually, in addition, a more in-depth view, that's not enough for them, they can even join the members site, because there I'm putting up my raw vlogs, not the professional ones. They give you a bit more insight and detail into things. And my training is all there on my spreadsheet. So you literally can see my training mesocycle from the start of prep to now. You can see my body weight from the start to now. You get a bunch of insights. You can see what I'm doing with my nutrition. Because a lot of people ask me, like, what's your split or blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, it's literally $5.99, and you can get access to all of that and tons of presentations, education, and all that good stuff. So just a little bit of a shout out to the members site as well.
Yeah.
But cheers, guys. And I appreciate the support from every single one of you, more than you know.
Absolutely. Cool. Talk to you guys soon. Cheers.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Flor. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.